Good morning, everyone. What's up? We're here at Hardwired Performance today. We got the UTV Source 2020 Turbo S Dynamic. It's gonna get wired up, where some of the wiring is actually getting done here, and some other of the wiring will be done at Ecstasy Power Sports when I get to Arizona. That's Eric.
Yeah.
Eric has been he's a longtime friend. He's also a madman when it comes to wiring. So not all cars are wired equally. It's just the way it is. The vehicle behind me, this truck is a friend of mine. It was wired, and it was wired way, way bad. So Eric's redoing that as well. So we got the Turbo S in here. We got the Pro XP badass build getting wired here as well. This is another one of my friends' builds that we were able to be involved in with FabWorks. Just got it here for wiring. Some of the other vehicles here, obviously, I don't know if you guys are into this stuff. This is a pretty crazy mezzanine, full-blown pre-runner. He's gnarly. Insanely gnarly. And this one showed up last night for Eric to wire. So there's some pretty gnarly builds in here. This is how the shop looks all the time. We're gonna be shooting some video of our Polaris Turbo S and Bill's, what's Bill getting? He's getting like a full-blown like mil-spec.
We're going full mil-spec on Mills.
And if you guys don't know what mil-spec is, break it down to him, Eric. Come here. Break down mil-spec.
So first off, mil-spec is a term that we use in the industry to more or less describe the processes that we use and the materials that we use. So I'm going to use all Tefsel wire, which is all fire retardant, fire resistant, super lightweight. There's pretty much no corrosion issues when you're using Tefsel. The whole harness is going to be wrapped in Raychem DR25, which again is fire retardant. And then we're going to use all high-end mil-spec style connectors, like quick disconnect connectors, full weatherproof, fireproof, all that good stuff. So that's what this thing's going to get, and it's basically the top of the top.
This car getting wired, I don't know where the price is going to fall on. I would safely assume when he's done with all of his systems that we're going to include into it, $4 or $5,
Yeah,
maybe $6,000.
Like
Bill, don't freak out when you hear that number, bro.
Yeah.
That's including systems. So
Yeah, that's including the control systems as well.
yeah, so I believe this one's gonna get a SPOD 4x4 system, which we do not offer on the site, but they're an awesome system. We just don't have them. Similar to a Switch Pro, which we do have on the site. And ours is actually getting an Ecstasy Power Sports system in it with the blinker kit, horn kit, the street legal kit. I'm moving to Arizona like this week, so I'm excited. I get to drive our side-by-sides every day if I choose. So today, what we're basically gonna be doing is, we're gonna be shooting the process of our vehicle, the UTV Source Turbo S, and Eric's gonna help me document this one. We're actually waiting on the interior to show up today on this. Let's give you a sneak peek of kind of some of the stuff Eric does. This would be considered kind of mil-spec.
Yeah, that follows all the guidelines of mil-spec, same like this right here. So it's literally all these materials here are all fire retardant. Again, this is all Tefsel wire, which has a fire retardant insulator on it. I use all Deutsch weatherproof connectors. Once this has all been finalized, it gets we call it a TPA. Which
That's a little rubber insert that goes in there?
Yeah, and it locks everything in place, so you don't ever have to worry about it coming out. Everything's all, weather tight from the backside. Everything gets wrapped. Use glue line boots to seal everything, so you don't have to ever worry about any moisture getting anywhere in the loom as well. So you can pretty much submerge one of these systems and everything will still work.
Mud guys, water guys,
Sand. It's good
Sand,
for
guys.
too.
Listen, we put all this money into our builds. Sometimes we go a little not so great on the wiring, and sometimes the not so great wiring job causes things to catch fire. It happens all the time. We're not going to be going full ham mil-spec on ours. We are going to be getting into it pretty deep, but again, we don't have the budget to kind of do that one on our personal car, at least not on this one, but we're going to go pretty deep on it. Then it's going to go to Arizona with me, and we're going to meet up with the guys from Ecstasy Power Sports and do a pretty cool vlog style YouTube there, and hopefully get on there and you know, be able to answer some questions, because there's always a lot of questions with the Ecstasy Power Sports product line. They have a huge line for all the do-it-yourselfers at home, but we're also going to be shooting some content with Eric. So when you're doing these systems at home, he can give you a little bit of insight to some things. So I'm looking forward to doing that with Eric, and I appreciate him being able to do this with us. I think it's going to be really informative and hopefully help you guys out just one more little notch, right? Gain some knowledge, and he's a true professional.
Yep, probably actually do some talking about tools and materials that you can use for doing your wiring. That's the biggest issue that I see when vehicles come in here that I need to address issues. It's actually more or less guys that use the wrong tools and the wrong methods with those tools. And that's where honestly most of the mistakes are made when you're doing it at home, or even some other shops that don't specialize in electrical. That's the biggest issue usually is the wrong tool or the wrong materials.
So the thing I want to keep for our viewers is a couple things, Eric, is I want to be able to showcase how to go about it the right way if they're buying like an Ecstasy kit or you know a Switch Pros or a Spawn system, that it doesn't overwhelm them with the cost of the tools and the cost of the materials. So I know we're going to be going over a lot of the higher end stuff, but I think on our build we should maybe keep it not so crazy.
Yeah, we'll keep it more for the average like garage mechanic. You know, something that everyone can attain with minimal expense.
Right. If you guys don't know who Eric is and you have more questions and you want to follow along on some of the stuff he does, it's at Hardwired Performance. This is him. That's his IG, at Hardwired Performance. Don't ask me anything about wiring because I don't know. So if you have questions from this video, ask him, because I'm that dude that if I wire something, he fixes it, but I don't wire anything. He wires all my personal cars. I suck at it. I can weld, fabricate, build, do all these other things. I don't care about wiring because it's not worth it for me. So you guys want to see a little sneak peek? This is a very special car. I'm getting a little off topic here, but we got a lot going on. This is legit. Now you'll notice the door sticks up. Everything's on gas struts. This is so cool. We got a bottle opener here. What I really like about this is, yes, he's got a full-blown Yeti. Yeah, it's like legit. There's more. This is just a little, I'm just giving you a sneak peek. He's got a full King Shocks jack in here, mounted on billet quick disconnects. This nub right here, see that? In the very beginning, one of the very first things we did on this build was I added some slips into the suspension system right here. You see that? That jack is gonna slide into here like this and pick up the arm without scratching, and it's also gonna lock it in. So it's one of those most fun little things that, you know, not a lot of you are gonna see or understand until you actually have to use the tool. But that's gonna make it so it doesn't fall on them. There's also a full-size axle spare in there, same, quick disconnect. 2 roto packs. A lot of modifications. We're gonna do more on this later. This slides back in. I can shake the whole car. This thing ain't gonna rattle. So if you guys are wondering if it's gonna rattle, no. We're gonna get deeper into this build as it evolves. It's here for wiring and final interior. I just love this thing. It's bad. So I'm gonna break it down. We're gonna get to work on this Turbo S. But I'm gonna finish my coffee. So everyone, Eric's wiring in the KC Highlights rear chase light bar up there. We've also got the Rugged Radios pumper to wire in. We've got the 5150 187 remote control whips to wire in. We've got a KC Highlights Cyclone on the tube clamp to wire in right there. We have the Pro 6 KC Highlights LED bar to get wired in. And we've got the Flex 10-inch to get wired in. Remember, these are already wired in. They came with the factory harness. Those are the Heretic headlights that I modified and color changed. Some of you might be asking right now before we even get into the wiring, doesn't the Turbo S Dynamic come with a stereo already? It does. The 2020s do. In fact, they had really nice doors on them from the factory, and they had MB Court speakers right here molded in. And we went with the Cognito doors, and we knew when we did that we were gonna lose those speakers. Because the 2020 Dynamic model comes with a head unit, your live valve, and a stereo in it. And it has a Rockford Fosgate amp in it from the factory, but with MB Court speakers. Since the doors are gone, what I've decided to do is go with a very simple Rockford Fosgate tower speaker that you can get at utdsource.com. So I wasn't sure if it was going to power those speakers. Already clipped the wires down there, tested it. It sounds amazing. It sounds great. It sounds better than the MB Court speakers that were in the doors originally. This is an affordable way to get your speakers back and get some music back in the build. So excited about that. They came with this super long harness. We're gonna cut it to fit. Again, it's just the Rockford Fosgate Prime R1s. And that's all we're putting back in. That's all we need. So enough of that. That should tell you why we've got those in there if you're asking out there. So Eric, what the heck are you doing right now? That's nice. That's a fancy tool.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, you got
a nice tool.
You got a nice tool, buddy.
Right now, what I'm actually doing is extending the leads to the Pro 6.
Okay.
Because we're gonna use the ecstasy system, so there's actually no point to use the relay and switch that comes with the Pro 6. So I've actually just removed the Pro 6 power leads from the wiring that comes with the Pro 6. And in doing that, the leads are gonna come up short from where we gotta run them. So I had to extend them. And I'm actually using just regular crimp bump connects, but they are a heat shrink seal. So now that I got these crimp good and tight, I always check. It's a good thing. Always check your connections, make sure, because you can go ahead and you can do all the shrinking on this. And if that lead still isn't crimped in there well and you have a bad connection, that'll cause you issues down the road.
I've done that.
Yeah, it's always good. Give them a little tug. You don't gotta sit there and try and put your whole weight on it. So as you can see, I use a tool. It's a little bit more than most people have in their toolbox, but what it does is it actually crimps the crimp barrel itself, and then it actually puts a small crimp into the insulation itself as well. Doesn't really help very much on these style connectors, but there are connectors where there is even a, I guess you would say there's a crimp that grabs onto the insulation that keeps it just that much more secure. These being the shrink wrap doesn't have that. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and shrink these down. This is good. I'm gonna put all of this stuff in one nice woven loom so it looks clean down the pillar, and then down under the seat, and then up under the dash for the distribution.
So Eric made that sound really, really easy. And you know, if you're wiring, that may make some sense to you. To me, I'm not a wiring guy. I'm a fabricator, builder, and that's what I'm good at. This is something that I'm not good at, so I come to Eric. Now, I'm gonna tell you guys straight off the bat right now, Eric doesn't like doing things like this. He would rather build one harness and lace it in and terminate it at every light. I've asked him to use what comes in the boxes and make it look clean, because this is how everyone else is gonna be doing it at home. And that's important, because I've always kind of gone the extra mile and kind of gone full baller with this guy on my builds.
Yeah, most all my stuff is all mil-spec with breakouts to each individual light, so on and so forth. But today, I'm gonna do it like Rick said, with everything that comes with the lights, and basically just see how clean I can do it, and do it in a way that you guys at home could basically replicate yourselves. I'm not using crazy tools, I'm not using crazy materials, I'm literally using everything that comes in their packages. I'm using stuff you can get at your average hardware store, and I'm gonna see how clean I can get it. We're gonna document it, so that way it's something that you guys can then go through, look at it and go, hey, you know what? I'm gonna give that a shot on my own car, so that way you can get the good professional results and save some coin at the same time.
Yeah. Normally, if I was paying Eric to wire this car the way he would choose to wire it, I'd probably be 2,500 bucks into it. That's a lot of money, and not everyone has that kind of money. I can tell you firsthand, the wiring job on our build for this is going to be nice. We're not gonna have failures, it's gonna be right. The wiring job on Bill's Pro XP that we've put together with FabWorks is getting a mil-spec harness. I'll show you a mil-spec harness. Let's see if Eric's got one laying around. These are some of the things Eric wires up out here. Okay, so this would be somewhat of a mil-spec system that Eric puts together. You can see the wires, the service loops in there, the mil-spec heat shrink. This is a cannon plug from an aircraft, and it fits into a bulkhead and spins out. You can kind of see he gets into different the wiring on these things gets a little bit involved, and this is normally how I have my personal vehicles done, but we're going a different route. Everything's labeled when he does them, and everything's laced in accordingly in one system. This is a very expensive build. This is another truck coming in here to get wired. Again, these are super expensive builds. So this turbo, or this Pro XP, is gonna get a mil-spec harness in it. It's got a lot going on as far as wiring is concerned. We've got a Pro 6 on an actuator, we've got a flex, we've got a ton of cyclones, we've got a fiber optic Starry Night Rolls-Royce roof in here. You can see the interior is insane on this thing. There's a lot going on this. There's a lot going on this as well, but we're just gonna do it in a way that you're gonna do it at home. So he's gonna fish some wires. We're gonna catch up with him in just a bit, and we're gonna ask him some more questions. So right now you're just kind of taping it up, putting it together.
Yeah, I'm literally just doing this just to hold it, so that way when I run my woven loom over it, it actually just kind of more or less makes it easier for that process.
Okay.
This really doesn't have much more to do with the process besides that. The only other thing I am doing is I am putting like a slight twist through it, and all that's going to do is when I go to make these bends, it keeps the harness from getting all weird and misshaped, especially once you put the loom over it.
Okay.
So this is just going to make it a little bit easier, a little bit tidier, and I guess cleaner in the long run.
So if you guys are at home, you don't need to run electrical tape all through this, is basically what he's saying too.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah, you don't need to cover the whole thing. This is just there just to keep it nice and bundled while I install the woven loom over it.
Gotcha. And this is basically a woven loom.
Yeah.
This is off the Rockford speakers. It's the same process. Nice woven loom. So right on, cool deal. Well, I'm gonna keep going on my speaker install over here. Looks pretty close. So I had to run briefly to take care of some errands. It's probably been about 1 hour, Eric, I've been gone?
Yeah.
That's crazy how fast this guy does stuff. Super clean too. Those are the 5150 whips. I gotta download the app to my phone still. So he's just hitting them with power right now, making sure everything's coming on as it should.
Yep. Gotta make sure it's all good for the ecstasy boys.
Fancy. Hell yeah, brother.
Almost there. A few more zip ties.
A few more zip ties and
A few more curse words, we're good.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
I really...
And again, dude, tell all your followers and people that use this actually everything that I use material-wise either came in the boxes or something you need at a hardware store. None of this is crazy mil-spec material. This is all stuff you can get at your hardware store. Even use hardware store zip ties.
Nice. Oh, you didn't do my speakers yet.
I'm not an audio guy anymore.
Oh my God. I better get to work on it too. It's a fancy tool.
Yes, sir.
That's something we're not gonna have at home.
Most people won't. That's a battery cable crimper. It's a big dog. But hopefully most people won't have to do what I'm doing right here.
Grip that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So strong. Oh, I farted right when you did that.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wish I would have farted right when I did it.
Oh, we just had sandwiches too.
Oh, so good.
So good.
Oh shit.
That one's got a light. That's high tech. Whoa!
I got a light too. Forgot I had that up there.
Some people will have that, but if not, you can use a blowtorch or a lighter. No?
No, because that actually ends up ruining it. Just go use a hairdryer.
Well, explain to me, why does it ruin it?
So when you start putting open flame to a lot of these more like over-the-counter materials, it'll actually burn them.
Because the wire
heat's
itself,
just,
or
no,
the?
well, yeah, the wire, some of the connectors, but the heat is just too high for a lot of like your more, I guess you'd say budget-minded materials.
Okay.
A lot of the high-end stuff, like the mil-spec stuff, yeah, you can use a torch to do it, but you still don't want to. It's just not the correct way to do it. But you always want to use something like a heated air source, like a blow dryer, or like in that case a heat gun. You can actually get a lot of these. There's like lower models. Like I like the Wagner because they're really easy to get. They're in most hardware stores, but they make like a cheaper little mini one. It's only like $35, and you can get them at like all the big brand hardware
Like
stores.
Harbor Freight?
Harbor Freight might have one that blows flames. Yeah, they have them too. Harbor Freight has them. Lowe's has them. Home Depot, all those guys, they'll have them.
So drop some knowledge bombs on wiring tips.
Do it right so you don't set your car on fire. Whenever possible, some of the biggest mistakes that you see are actually when it comes to using the wrong materials or the wrong parts. Oh, my light's dying.
Whoa.
Put it in low mode. But a lot of times, the biggest thing you gotta do is if you're running your own wire to something, if like for some reason the product that you bought doesn't have supplied power wire, you always want to make sure you find out what the current draw is going to be. And you can look online, there's a whole lot of resources out there, but you got to make sure you get a wire and a fuse that matches the current draw. Otherwise, you're going to have an issue where your wire could essentially overload, and that's where you'd actually get a lot of these vehicle fires starting, is improper wire size and like too big of a fuse. So, you know, like for example, 16 gauge wire, you're usually okay with running 10 to 15 amps through it. If you try and power up like a big light bar that draws 25 amps and you put a 30 amp fuse on it to that 16 gauge wire, that fuse won't blow and it'll try and flow all 30 amps that you put to it. Or let's say the light bar draws 25, it'll try and draw 25 amps through it. What that'll do is that'll overload the wire, and the wire will actually start to overheat and eventually combust. And that's how a lot of that's actually where a lot of car fires start.
It's a good thing I'm not wiring. Yeah, I swear I've gone in, you know, when I was younger and I'd buy wiring, like, oh, that looks about the right size. And just slap it in there.
Yeah, a lot of times it's deceiving too, because a lot of times, you know, these wires, you know, they might look like it's a big wire, but then you cut into it and the actual conductor itself is actually quite small. And it's better just to actually, if it's not actually labeled, just to ask someone that knows the exact gauge and go from there.
You did so good.
So good. All lit up.
6 hours. Whips up and running. The 5150 whips. We got the Pro 6. Casey highlights. The Flex. We got the Cyclone. Inside interior light. Set it on strobe. So good. Thank you.
No problem, buddy.
He says that now. How is it?
This little thing is fast, man. These cars are really impressive right out of the box. Like, you don't have to do a lot to the engine, but you can feel the suspension upgrades, and it's rad because you can use all the power, and there's a ton of power in this little car. It's crazy. It's a lot of fun.
So Eric's never really driven a side-by-side yet. He's driven the Can-Am, but not this Polaris. I haven't even driven this one yet. I've just been busy. But to see him smiling, that's rad.
Dude, if this thing had street tires on firm, this thing is on rails.
Oh, it sits down.
I went by CFO.
Yeah?
They heard us over here having fun. The comfort setting's pretty cool too. Like for you moving to Arizona, like if you were to drive this thing around on the street,
Yeah.
like to go to like the store or something, dude, I'd rock it in either sport or the comfort mode because it's just very compliant, very just subtle.
What was that?
Say actually all the different ride settings are pretty cool and pretty usable. The comfort mode, like if you were to ride this thing through town,
Yeah.
I'd probably either throw it in the sport or the comfort mode depending on what your your town's roads are like.
It's Arizona, man. They're perfect roads.
Yeah, but it's cool. Like if you're coming across the transition, like in a road or into a driveway,
Yeah.
it doesn't jerk you around. It's actually nice and smooth. The sport mode feels really good. The firm, like I said, if this thing had street tires on the firm setting, this thing's on rails.
So this is a non-biased opinion coming from a guy who.
I don't even own any of these things.
And
I just drive them all.
That's rad. So we know everything works now on this build. Everything's dialed. So now I get to go beat the crap out of it myself. You can smell the exhaust got broken. Oh, it's purple. It's got some color. Good job.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at that. Matches this.
It sounds good. I like the sound of it.
It's loud, bro. This thing's loud and rowdy. Good deal. Well, that's the 6-hour full wire job, minus the street legal kit we still got to put in from Ecstasy Power Sports. And we're going to go ahead and tie in with their system off the brake lights. So it's up there on the KC Highlights chase bar. And that'll be it. That's a wrap.